name is Margaret, I'm 68 years old, and for 42 years I built a happy life with my husband, Robert. We raised our only son, Ethan, in a small town where family always came first. When Robert passed away after a long illness, my world fell apart overnight. Ethan insisted I move into his house, saying he didn't want me living alone anymore. I didn't want to be a burden, but he kept saying, "Mom, you'll always have a home with us." I believed him. At first everything seemed fine, but after a few weeks I realized my daughter-in-law Jessica didn't share Ethan's feelings. Whenever Ethan was home, she smiled, asked if I needed anything, and acted like the perfect daughter-in-law. But the moment he left for work, her personality completely changed. She complained that I used too much electricity, criticized the meals I cooked, rolled her eyes whenever I spoke, and constantly reminded me that it was their house. I ignored the insults because I loved my son too much to create problems in his marriage. Every day I cleaned the house, folded laundry, cooked dinner, and even babysat my 2 grandchildren after school without asking for anything in return. Instead of appreciation, Jessica became even colder. One evening she invited several friends over for dinner. Just before they arrived, she looked at me and whispered, "Don't embarrass me tonight, stay upstairs." I quietly went to my room while everyone laughed downstairs. I could hear them enjoying the dinner I had spent hours preparing. I told myself things would get better. They didn't. A few weeks later, Jessica's parents announced they were visiting for several days. That night she walked into my room carrying a blanket and said, "My parents need this bedroom, you'll sleep in the basement from now on." I stared at her thinking she was joking. She wasn't. I looked toward Ethan, but he was on an important work call and never heard the conversation. Jessica folded her arms and repeated, "The basement is good enough for you." I slowly picked up my pillow and followed her downstairs. The basement was cold, dusty, and smelled of old boxes. There was an old mattress in the corner with a broken lamp beside it. As I lay there listening to the rain outside, I couldn't stop crying. I wasn't crying because of the basement. I was crying because I realized the woman my son loved saw me as less than family. The next morning I decided to organize the storage boxes just to keep my mind busy. While sorting through old files, I discovered a locked metal box that Robert had asked me never to open unless I truly needed it. Inside were investment documents, property deeds, and a handwritten letter. The letter read, "Margaret, if you're reading this, it means life has tested you again. Everything we've worked for belongs to the people who love you, not the people who use you." Tears filled my eyes. Robert had quietly invested over the years, leaving behind a lake house, dividend stocks, and savings worth nearly $1 million. Suddenly, I understood why he had always insisted I keep these papers safe. That same week I met with our family attorney and completely updated my estate plan. Ethan would inherit everything through a protected trust, and every dollar would eventually go to my grandchildren. Jessica's name disappeared from every single document. The lawyer asked if I was certain. I smiled and replied, "I've never been more certain in my life." A month later, Jessica suddenly became unusually kind. She offered to cook dinner, asked me to sit with the family, and even suggested we go shopping together. Then she casually mentioned that renovating the house would be much easier if I contributed some of my savings. I simply smiled and said, "I've already made plans for my money." She looked disappointed but said nothing. A few months later, Ethan accompanied me to the lawyer's office to sign a healthcare document. During the meeting, he accidentally learned how my estate had been arranged. Confused, he asked why Jessica wasn't included. I calmly told him everything, the insults, the loneliness, the nights I cried, and especially the evening she ordered me to sleep in the basement. Ethan's face turned pale. He couldn't believe I had hidden my pain to protect his marriage. That night he confronted Jessica. At first she denied everything, but after Ethan mentioned the basement, she admitted it and coldly said she was just taking up space. Ethan was devastated. For the first time, he saw the woman he married without excuses. He apologized to me over and over, saying he had failed to notice what was happening under his own roof. Jessica came to me the next day with tears in her eyes, begging for another chance. She promised she would change and insisted she had made a terrible mistake. I quietly listened before saying, "Respect isn't something you show after discovering someone has money. Real respect is shown when you believe they have nothing." Those words ended the conversation forever. A few weeks later, I moved into the beautiful lake house Robert had left behind. It overlooked the water, surrounded by trees, and for the first time in years I felt truly at peace. Ethan visited every weekend with the grandchildren, and our relationship became stronger than ever. Jessica was never invited. She had traded a loving family for greed and lost everything because of it. Looking back, sleeping in that cold basement felt like the darkest night of my life, but it also revealed the truth I needed to see. Sometimes the people who try hardest to make you feel worthless end up teaching you your greatest lesson, that your kindness should never come at the cost of your dignity, and the greatest revenge is quietly protecting your future while letting others face the consequences of their own choices.